Hi, my name is Andrea, and this is my journey to having a kid without neurofibromatosis. I decided to make this video because I wanted, or this series of videos, because I wanted to have a place or a spot where I can vent and kind of like talk out without waiting for a response. I wanted to have a moment where I could just like take things in as they come. I don't know if I'll post this. Hopefully, if I do, it will help someone. What is neurofibromatosis? I googled it. I looked for the definition just to kind of like have a specific definition, a clear one. It says neurofibromatosis is a genetic disorder of the nervous system. It mainly affects how the nerve cells form and grow. It causes tumors to grow on nerves. You can get neurofibromatosis from your parents, or it can happen because of a mutation in your genes. Once you have it, you can pass it along to your children. Usually the tumors are benign, but sometimes they can become cancerous. Now there are 3 types of NF, which is how they call for short. Type 1 causes skin changes and deformed bones. It usually starts in childhood. Sometimes the symptoms are present at birth. Type 2 causes hearing loss, ringing of the ears, and poor balance symptoms after start in the teen years. And schwannomatosis, and I'm sorry, probably butchered that, but causes intense pain and is the rarest type. It says doctors diagnose the different types based on the symptoms. Genetic testing is also used to diagnose NF1 and 2. There is no cure. Treatment can help control the symptoms depending on the type of disease and how serious it is. Treatment may include surgery to remove tumors, radiation therapy, and medicines. Now, I was diagnosed when I was 17, and the reason why I was diagnosed is because my dad had it. My dad was diagnosed as an adult. He had it. There's different types or different ways that the condition can present itself. I don't know. One of the ways it's people that have like a lot of bumps on their skin, and people whose nodules or fibroids are inside. In my dad's case, they were inside. He had 3 on his spinal cord, which he had surgery twice and radiation because there was one connected to the on the top of the spinal cord. He had 2 here, which were never touched. Sometimes they bother him, but never enough to get surgery. The ones on his spine were pressuring the cord, so he was having trouble walking. He got surgery a couple of times. I would say probably 4 or 5 times from the time I was 11 to the time I was 17, and he passed away. He passed away from cancer. He passed away from cancer that was from the neurofibromatosis. It says in rare cases it becomes cancer. Well, he was one of those rare cases that it did become cancerous. So after he passed away, I've always looked a lot like my dad, and it's not just like physical in my face. I have a lot of characteristics that my dad had. And when compared to the characteristics of neurofibromatosis, they were very similar. For example, I have the cafe au lait spots, which are these ones right here. I have probably about 6 or 7 throughout my body. My dad actually had this too on the same spot. I have a big head, even though everyone says my hair covers it. You don't think so until I have to buy a hat. I have the Irish lynch nodes, which are like little nodes that form in your eye, completely benign. I have skeletal abnormalities. I actually have scoliosis. I was diagnosed when I was 12, maybe younger. So there were a lot of characteristics. So we decided to go to a geneticist, get tested, and lo and behold, I tested positive. At that time, I didn't know that there were more than one type. I just thought it was NF, and that was it. And all I know was that the doctor told me this is a genetic condition, and there's a 50% chance that you will pass it on to your kids. So the only way you can prevent that from happening is you have IVF. I knew I was 17 at the time. I understood it, but I never cared for it. I was like, okay, when the time comes, I'll deal with it. It took me a really long time to accept, I guess, the diagnosis. Like, I knew I had it and I was okay with it, but I would never tell, like, not even my closest friends knew about it until years later. I don't know why I felt ashamed or sad, or like, for some reason I needed that diagnosis to be mine and I didn't want to tell anyone. And one of the main reasons, thinking back, was because I don't show it. When the doctor told me the diagnosis, he said, there's something in the genetic pool of your mom that your mom passed on to you that prevented the condition from appearing or becoming extreme. So that was it. I have it. I pass it on. Is not developed on me. It may get developed once you get pregnant because of hormones. That's all I knew. That's all I care about. I never researched anything else. Fast forward about 12, 13 years, I met a guy and we hit it off. I had this conversation with him very early on. And by very early on, I mean maybe first 2 months of the conversation. I was like, hey, this is what I do. If this is something you're looking for, just know I can't have babies the way God intended them to, because I don't want to risk it. And that's something that I've had very clear since I was 17. I don't want to risk it because I saw what my dad went through. And it wasn't pretty. My dad suffered a lot. His first surgery, he couldn't sleep for the first 20 days after because he was in such pain. So with things like that, that's what I lived with. That's what I remember, and I don't want anyone to suffer that if I can prevent it. So we're okay. In June, we started talking about the possibility of growing as a family. So I went to a fertility clinic. The reason why, and hence I didn't go to a geneticist, is because the geneticist needed a referral. I don't have a main doctor to give me a referral, so I was not able to go directly to them. Anyway, the fertility clinic, the doctor was super nice, and she did her research. She went to a geneticist. She talked about what they knew, and they sent me to get a genetic test done. In my mind, I thought this was a yes or no kind of thing, and it turns out, or the test was for NF1, which I have, or it's believed that I have. And why the reason I say it's believed that I have is because we just got done with a conversation with our genetic counselor, which is the person that is supposed to do our probe. It's a long process. So the probe is a process of identifying the gene that is wrong inside the egg, so you can take out the egg that doesn't work or that has that gene, and then you can use the healthy, the good eggs, right? And after having a conversation with her, she told us that my test came back inconclusive, that I definitely do have it, but they don't know what's causing it, why. It wasn't clear. The test that they did was too specific to one thing, and that one thing came inconclusive. It's like yes or no, maybe, and mine came out as a maybe. So now, this has been a process from June up until now, which is November. We're just waiting to see what happens. It's very frustrating. It's very hard. There were a lot of questions that came through my mind after hearing the result, because I knew I had it, but in my head I was kind of hoping maybe it will come back negative, and all of this I can put it behind me, but it didn't. So after I got that diagnosis, I was kind of like frustrated with myself because I'm like, I've never tried to get pregnant. I've never attempted it because I was so afraid. So I don't know if I can carry a kid to term. I don't know if I'll have a miscarriage. I don't know how easy it is going to be for me to get pregnant. So all these ideas are going through my head. I'm like, what if we spend $25,000 on a process and then, sorry, it didn't work. Try again. You know, I'm a teacher. My husband he works for the Air Force. We're not all the way up there. You know, so it's a lot of things, and then just going through the motions, like, maybe, you know what, let's just risk it. And then, like, no, I don't want my kid to go through what I saw with my dad. And it's a lot of back and forth in my head. And after I got that diagnosed, I was very, very frustrated and very, very upset. And I needed to just kind of like take a minute, take it back, and kind of like see the bigger picture. And it took me a couple of days to get there. And I don't mean a couple of days like, oh my God, like that was nothing. I know, but for me, my brain is an interesting place to be. Anyway, we got the diagnosis. I knew that this was a yes, it has to happen. There's no other way. We went to the counselor, the genetic counselor called us. And it was like, yeah, well, with the information that we have right now, I'm sorry, we can't do the probe because we can't promise that we'll get a neg that is a clean of NF, because we don't know that the one thing that they tested is the one thing that is causing your NF. Like, it could be multiple things. So you need to take a step back, go to a geneticist, have them review your case, have them test you if anything else needs to be added, and then come back to us. So that is where I stand right now. I have a lot of questions about the whole process. I don't think it's clear to me, other than I know I have to do it. So I have an appointment with the fertility clinic. Hopefully they'll be able to shed light as of what's going to be happening with my case, what I have to do, what needs to happen. And I guess I'll keep you posted. That's all I have for right now. Hopefully I will keep this going and I'll get the courage to post it. I hope it can help someone. So anyway, have a good night or good day whenever you're seeing this.